I'm in the kitchen with Chef Laura from Celebrated Cuisine, and you are showing us how to cook, well, with balsamic vinegar, because I smell that right now.
Yeah, we have a little of that going.
Yeah, I have a little balsamic going on, and we're also cooking with parsnips and carrots.
Parsnips and carrots, yes. As you know, Passover is coming up next week, and I have found with my clients that they're always a little challenged by how they can supplement the Passover table and also the rest of the week in a way that they're not just eating matzah or getting just tired of the same old thing.
Sure.
And there's a couple of recipes that people use carrots for. They're very, very traditional. Well, there's nothing about me that's really traditional except having been classically trained. So I try to take the traditional and put a little twist on it.
Okay.
So what I did today was, and these recipes, by the way, are great throughout the year, whether you celebrate Passover or not, okay? But basically, and at its core, we're dealing with parsnips and carrots, and these obviously very, very similar, but they taste very different. And there's actually a little bit of a more sweeter, stronger flavor to a parsnip than there is to a carrot. But they are in the same family, so they belong together.
And this one's also grown, it's like a root.
Vegetable, it's exactly right.
Okay.
It's grown the exact same way as your carrots are grown. As you can tell, because of the orange coloring, this is higher in beta carotene, but this is a wonderful source of folic acid, great when making babies, as well as potassium and fiber. So this is also a great supplement to any diet, especially if you're trying to lose weight. So listening to the rest of the show today, I know that was part of the theme.
Yeah,
so
I don't know how it happened,
you got to up the parsnips in your diet. So, but you can eat these raw, and you can grate them. I would grate them fairly thinly if you were going to do that.
Why? What do they taste like?
Well, they're just very strong flavored. You're welcome to try if you'd like, and then just a little teeny tiny taste. See, look at that.
Thank you.
So, but what I prefer doing with these is roasting them. Or you can even boil them in puree.
A lighter carrot.
Exactly, but it has a little more sweetness to it. So when I roast these, what ends up happening is that it caramelizes. The sugars that are naturally found, they're a little bit higher in sugar. They caramelize, and so they bring up that sweetness that much more.
Oh, okay.
So you get this little bite of yummy, okay? So how do you do that? Well, as far as the parsnip is concerned, just like a carrot, you would peel this, and then you can slice and cut this into. But it doesn't really matter. For this, I did more of a julienne, and it's nice because it kind of resembles a fry type of thing. So people might get excited about that.
Yeah.
Exactly, they can pretend. But you can also cut this in bigger chunks. The key there, though, is to make sure you use uniformity in how you cut things, so that you are sure that things cook at the same speed. Okay. So regardless, one thing I do want to point out too, I do this with my students all the time, is when you are cutting it, especially if you want to do a julienne, notice one thing I'm doing right here is I created a flat surface. So I'm not chasing this all around the cutting board while I go then all my little planks, okay? So I can just take this and then cut each of these into thinner strips to resemble that.
Now I notice there's a bit of a root right here. Is this going to be tougher, and do we need to leave that part out, or are we okay?
Just like with the carrot, you're going to just cut that up and eat that as well. So the whole thing is edible except the tip and the tail, basically, okay? Now, because you can't just have roasted carrots and parsnips, you've got to take it up a little bit in terms of level.
That's just not, that's not how you roll.
That's just not how I roll. Thank you for noticing. So what I'm doing over here is I'm creating a sherry reduction, okay? So I can drizzle this over and add a little bit of sweetness. And I had a great conversation with someone here a little while ago who said, I don't like vinegar. And so I said, well, give me a second.
Who was it? We'll get him out of here.
Where is he? Where is he? And so I had him taste the vinegar. I had him taste the reduction. I put a little bit on his finger. He tasted it. He's like, oh, that's really good. I said, yeah, if you sweeten it up a little bit and you cut the acidity, then you just have vast more options of what you can do with it. So if you look in my pan right here, this is a combination of equal parts balsamic vinegar and sherry vinegar, okay? So if you see the big bubbles that are popping at the very top now?
That's the sugar?
What you see is actually the evaporation, and we reduce things so we can concentrate the flavors, and we can also change the texture of them. So once you get to this point, and I'm going to turn off the oven or the stove at this point, if you see these big bubbles that are slowly popping, this is your visual indicator that you are there. You're done. You've made your reduction.
When you see the bubbles, you're done.
Slowly popping. If you go any farther than that, you don't have a drizzle, you don't have a syrup, you have sludge, okay?
That's not good.
Sludge does not work well. And what we're trying to do is it will thicken more as it cools, but you get this. Okay, and this is not just great on carrots and parsnips. This is also great over ice cream or desserts or whatever you would like. So, as well as any other kind of root vegetable or any other roasted vegetable. So
it's got that balsamic kick, but a sweet.
The sweet has a really nice finish. So if you taste it with one of the root vegetables, then you'll see that it completely changes the complexity of the flavor, and it becomes absolutely divine, actually.
How long would it take us to go from pouring it in to bubble to slow bubbles to that?
Start to finish, especially using a saucepan. Like I'm using a saute pan for a reason. Bigger surface area, so I have faster evaporation. Okay. So if I'm doing it in a pan like this, you could actually get from start to finish in about 8 or 9 minutes.
All right, and then how long can we keep it like this? So let's say we're kind of trying to prep for Passover meals and such in advance.
Oh, way in advance. You can actually hold this in your refrigerator for a couple of weeks if you wanted to.
Yay team. Okay, that works.
And my guess is it won't even last that long. You'll be using it.
Yeah, yeah. What else could we use it on?
You can use it on a roasted vegetable platter. It's great on sandwiches. You can put it over meats or chicken or fish.
Or you can just dip your finger in it.
That's my preferred way of dining. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Laura. If you'd like to take classes from her, you can find out more information by giving her a call at Celebrated Cuisine. That number is 480-460-2102, and the recipe will be under the food tab.